But if I look at the faces of Tim Geithner, of Ben Bernanke, of Mr. Obama and Larry Summers, that is sure that I will never sell any gold. That for sure. As long as these people are essentially structuring economic policies, fiscal and monetary policies, and foreign policies, no thank you, I will keep my gold. I will not buy paper money.
So the University of Texas has the second largest endowment fund of any U.S. university, the number one being Harvard. They have $19.9 billion in their fund. And last year they added another $500 million in gold holdings to their already $500 million worth. And they took physical delivery. It's being held at HSBC in New York. It's physical gold they took. They didn't take GLD or any of these ETFs or paper gold.
No, and who are the Bass family? The Bass family, they are super wealthy. They've been riding the bull for decades. They've been riding the takeout bull, the leveraged buyout bull, all the rallies that we've seen in stocks, bonds over the past 30 years. You know, the Bass family's amassed a huge fortune playing the game. Now they realize that the game now is gold.
The fact that the dollar today is worth about 10 cents of what the dollar was worth in 1971 when Nixon ended convertibility to gold, that would not have happened. What happens under the gold standard, the true gold standard, the classical gold standard, is that the purchasing power of the dollar or any currency convertible to gold is stable over the very, very long run.
And so if you have money in the bank, you don't lose. You don't have to worry about inflation because Uncle Ben and the Federal Reserve can't just keep printing cash because there's no gold to back up the cash.
Especially if you are a middle-income person, you're on fixed wages, fixed salaries, and if you are on fixed income as a retiree or someone who's disabled, then you can count on the purchasing power in the future.
Since 1971, when President Nixon took the United States off what was left of the gold standard, the world has operated under a system of money called fiat. The dollar, the pound, the euro are all government fiat currencies. Fiat is a Latin word meaning let it be so. It is the law that this government currency be money. Indeed, without that legal enforcement, and the fact that we must pay taxes in this money, that dollar bill or that computer digit that represents a dollar would be pretty much meaningless. Only the government has the power to issue fiat money, but banks can create it through lending. If somebody wants to borrow $10, a bank can create it from nowhere and lend it. It can then charge interest. Banks also create money by lending against an asset, such as a house. They're given the deeds to the house, and they create the money out of nowhere and lend it, at interest of course. Over the last 40 years, since this fiat system of money became the global norm, the supply of money has grown exponentially. In fact, we've seen the greatest growth in the supply of money in history. But who benefits? Of course, those that have the power to issue money, governments and banks.
by making debt loans. Debt equals money pile. Remember that. Debt equals money. The more loans they make, the more money they make.
But if they don't have any money, then where did my money come from?
You're gonna want to take a step back.
Whoa! No way!
Yes, what?
Our original US dollar, if we had the original US dollar, would be worth about 35 of today's dollars. So that our dollar has actually lost about 97% of its purchasing power. The $1890 dollar was worth almost exactly the same as a dollar in 1790. Now, the dollar in 1990 was only worth about 7% of the $1890 dollar. So during the period when we went off of gold and stopped issuing silver coins, instead of the value of the dollar staying constant, it lost 93% of its value over that century. Since 1990, it's lost 50% of that remaining 7%. That process isn't going to stop. What causes our money to lose purchasing power? Most people are under the impression that it's just a part of the market process, that things are just always becoming more expensive, that it's just natural for this to happen because it's been happening that way ever since. But that's really not the case. In some cases, prices are going down. If we look at clothing, computers, electronics, pencils, things of that nature, things that are completely in the marketplace, they're actually going down. There's other areas where the government is heavily involved, where they regulate, they restrict, they have controls, they have taxes, subsidies. Places like education, healthcare, and energy, where the government is so heavily involved, restrictive, regulated, and taxed, those are areas where the prices are going up. Then there's other areas where the government is completely in charge, things like postage stamps, space shuttle missions, and prisons, where prices are skyrocketing across the board. So if we look at the level of government involvement, you can kind of get a rough idea of where prices are going up and where prices are going down. But the reason that prices are going up in general is because of monetary inflation by the government itself. They're creating more money, and when you get too much money in the economy, prices are going to rise overall. Since we had the Federal Reserve System established in the U.S., the amount of money in the U.S. economy has increased 500 times. That's 50,000%. Okay, from $20 billion to $10+ trillion.
Then, how are these people with various types of income affected? You continue the story of understanding the dollar.
1971, the U.S. and Nixon convinced the entire world to replace gold and silver with paper money. This stuff. Cash is trash. So the reason we have so much volatility in the world today is historically, since the time of the Romans and the Greeks and the French and the English and the Germans, every time they have taken God's money, like silver here, and replaced it with man-made money, there's been economic volatility. Now the problem is, so the dollar is going to keep dropping. So one of the reasons I can predict what's going to happen is I can predict the dollar will keep dropping simply because the U.S. government and now the euro, the European central banks, are printing so much of this trash. So you'll see gold going up in price, oil going up in price, real estate going up in price, because this is trash. So that's what happened in 1971, has happened throughout history. And the reason this current election doesn't make any difference is the only person that can put this back in place is a strong, charismatic leader. People like Julius Caesar, Napoleon. That's why they were such great leaders, was they actually replaced this with this. Unfortunately, we do not have that person among the candidates. I know Ron Paul, philosophically, I agree with him as closely as possible, but unfortunately I don't think Ron Paul has the chutzpah, as my Jewish friend would say, to change this whole thing. So there will be more this printed than ever before, which means the dollar keeps coming down and other things keep going up. And that's really what's going to happen. It's predictable. And eventually this will go to its true worth, zero.